And now it's time for Making Kayfabe with your hosts, Bryce and Dylan.
Welcome to Making Kayfabe, the podcast where we reimagine pro wrestling's missed opportunities and predict how they could have been made just that little bit better. My name is Bryce, and with me today is my good friend Dylan, and this is our first episode, the pilot, if you may. Dylan, how are you today?
I am absolutely fabulous, my friend. How are you doing?
I am equally fabulous. I'm really looking forward to this. We've been planning this for two years now. Long time. It's finally coming to fruition. So we'll take you guys through the idea of the show. So the idea of the show is that we're going to take one glorified missed opportunity in wrestling per episode. We're going to review the build up to it, what actually happened and what in a perfect world should have happened in our own humble opinions. Dylan and I will switch between host and co-host each week. So 1 week Dylan will take the lead and 1 week I'll take the lead. And we've got a lot in the tank to keep this thing going for a very long time. So we hope you're in for joining us for the journey.
Exactly, man. I hope you guys are ready to hear exactly what we got to say, because we got a lot of things to say about this.
There's a lot of things to say. There's a lot of history to rewrite. So without any further ado, we're going to try and avoid too much pissing about at the start of each episode. So I'll be taking episode 1. So shall we go ahead and jump into Making Kayfabe, my friend?
Let's do it.
Nice one. Let's start this. So, episode 1. My kayfabe creation today is about a man who has been on the lips of every wrestling fan for years, despite not actually wrestling a match since early 2014. He's been through lawsuits. He's been through. He's been the reason for blue balls all over the wrestling community. But before that, he was the best in the world. Today, I'm going to be talking about Viscera. Sorry,
finally,
CM Punk. Sorry,
oh.
the other best in the world. Sorry about that. I get those two confused all the time.
It's because Viscera is dead, so now Punk is technically the best in the world.
Well, yeah, that's it. So when Viscera unfortunately passed away, CM Punk claimed that title. So
yeah.
I miss hearing those Viscera pipe bomb promos. I really do.
They were something else, weren't they?
Like, remember when he was in ROH and just kicking ass there, and
that was crazy times when he did that moonsault off the balcony.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the 450 splash off the cage, and
they said he couldn't do it, and he did it.
What did he do? He went ahead and did it.
Just did it anyway.
So, yeah, there's many storylines and eras of Punk / Viscera I could have chosen from, and the likelihood is that we're going to revisit a lot of them in the future. But the era that I've chosen is from June to August of 2011. So, do you remember what Punk was doing then, Dylan?
He was fighting Viscera in Ring of Honor, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, aside from that, obviously.
Yes, I do remember what he was doing back then. That was, that's possibly the most famous part of CM Punk's career.
Yeah.
That era when he was going into Money in the Bank and was fighting. He was trying to fight just to kind of keep his place at the top of the card. Yeah. And his contract was running out. And so they decided to come up with an interesting storyline to go along with that.
That's it. Yeah, he was dropping pipe bombs and threatening to leave WWE way before he actually did, by the way. It was all the rage of wrestling, and wrestling fans were salivating at the thought of him going back to Ring of Honor to be, in direct competition with WWE. Honestly, sort of like how people felt when Dean Ambrose, John Moxley left WWE and ended up in AEW. I wouldn't say that's too dissimilar from the reaction Punk would have got if he actually left WWE back then. So that's where we're going to focus. So we're going to go through what did happen first. So we're going to review kind of a 4 episodes of Raw, kind of before Money in the Bank, and then we're going to kind of do a bit after it, and then I'm going to figure out how we're going to rewrite that and make a whole new history out of it. So yeah, let's go for it. So I'm going to start on the June 20th Raw. So there was a very special theme to this Raw, and it was a Power to the People episode. Oh yeah. My friend, you didn't have to watch this. I did.
You didn't have to watch it.
Oh, but I like to torture myself. So very similar. So it's very similar to the likes of Taboo Tuesday or Cyber Sunday, where WWE they used to let fans choose the match stipulations or participants via text message. Sometimes the match stipulations would vary dramatically, but also sometimes fans were given the choice to choose between A, an Extreme Rules match, B, a street fight, or C, a no disqualification match, which are all basically the same thing.
Pretty much the same thing, yeah.
Pretty much the same thing. Do you remember this era?
I do, because I'm a big CM Punk fan. So, like, Punk was what got me back into wrestling. And watching the WWE. So, yes, I do remember this whole, not necessarily the part of the people show, but I do remember, like, Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday and, you know, all that guff, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of it back then. Like WWE were very into the whole social media and bigging up, trending on Twitter and you know, doing like
Twitter Thursdays and Wikipedia Wednesdays.
That's it, and Facebook Fridays. And,
Facebook Friday, that's a good one.
That's it. There we go. So they were always basically like the Power to the People choices. They were always the most rubbish choices. Like you'd never get to choose between, say, a ladder match, a casket match, or a hair versus hair match. You know, matches that actually have severe consequences. It was always like really guff choices. And on that note, so on that show we had Alberto Del Rio versus Rey Mysterio versus CM Punk, triple threat match for the #1 contendership to John Cena's WWE title.
Ooh.
What's your best guess for the match types the WWE Universe could choose from for this triple threat match?
All right, so I got to pick three.
Pick three. What's your best guess?
Well, it's a triple threat match, so we're thinking what would be a really good triple threat match. Probably, I'm gonna say there's gonna be like a street fight or something. It's gonna be up there.
Fair play. No DQs on there.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. Let me see. I'm thinking like maybe like a triple threat cage match or something.
You're shooting way too high. This is
okay.
That's too interesting.
Rein back in, like submission only match.
Yes, that's actually one of them.
Shut up. What?
You've got one more to go. I've total faith you can do this.
Wait, 1 second. What's Rey Mysterio's submission finishing move?
619.
Oh, yep, that'll be that. Fair enough. He gets hit with 619. He just taps out like that'll do. I'm not getting kicked in the face again.
No more.
And then the third one, let's see. I'm gonna say kendo stick on a pole match.
Unfortunately not. So the other one was a false count anywhere match. So the A was a no disqualification match, B was a false count anywhere match, and C was a submission match. And the WWE Universe voted in favour of the false count anywhere match with a 66% majority vote. No disqualification got 23%, and submission match got 11%.
They just don't like submission wrestling. These smarks, they don't know what they don't know what they want. You know. That's
it. Goddamn marks. But it's funny because we are them.
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler on commentary claims that they received hundreds of millions of texts for this match, showcasing the popularity of texting way back when. In the match, Alberto Del Rio got pinned by CM Punk in the middle of the ring during a false count anywhere match. Hey. WWE.
After falls count anywhere, including the ring.
They do count in the ring, so that is anywhere, I suppose. So they were anywhere, and that was after Rey Mysterio hit Alberto Del Rio with a top rope splash. So CM Punk basically came in, shoved Rey Mysterio out the way, and then pinned Del Rio. What a heel.
Sneaky.
So. Yeah, sneaky. Punk grabs a mic and then cuts a promo. So I'll paraphrase some of this. So he says, July 17th, 2011 will be the most historic day, not only in the career of CM Punk, it'll be a historic day for WWE as a whole. Not only is it the second annual Money in the Bank pay-per-view, but it's the night I beat John Cena for the WWE title. July 17th is the day my contract with World Wrestling Entertainment comes to an end. When the clock strikes midnight, the 17th becomes the 18th, Sunday bleeds into Monday. I'm leaving, and trust me when I tell you, I am leaving with the WWE Championship. Fucking huge announcement. A breath of fresh air for the arguably stale landscape of WWE in 2011. Just a huge segment, like one that would change the face of wrestling for the next month or so. Anyway, guess what?
Rey Mysterio got a new submission move.
No, but it doesn't even close the show. That's not even the end of the show.
That's like the opener or something, you know?
Yeah, it's halfway through the show. So it goes right on to advertising Cody Rhodes versus Daniel Bryan and another Power to the People deal. With the WWE Universe getting the option to choose between a paper bag match, a no countout match, or a collegiate rules match. Speechless.
What was the last one?
Collegiate rules? So imagine it's like, amateur wrestling almost.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Very interesting.
We never found out because I skipped it.
Fair enough.
Also featured was Vicky Guerrero competing in a dance competition against either Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, or Booker T. Inexplicably, 47% of the WWE Universe voted for Michael Cole, with Lawler and Booker getting 39% and 14% respectively. At this point, surely it has to be rigged. 47% of fans chose Michael Cole, the most detestable character in WWE television this era, over Jerry Lawler and Booker T.
They picked him over Booker T. Booker T has his own dance move.
It's Spinneroonie.
Spinneroonie.
His thing is to dance. It's his fucking thing.
And the King has his move, the King-a-rooney.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And he only got 39%. Like, what is that?
It's a damn shame, is what it is.
So again, I had to skip that segment. I just had to. Then we ended. So we're not even finished yet. After that, I mean, we ended with an elimination 6-man tag match. It was Christian, Alex Riley, and WWE champion John Cena versus The Miz, your favorite, The Miz, R-Truth, and World Heavyweight Champion Randy Orton. Team Cena won, and the show closed with John Cena and Randy Orton celebrating, despite being on different teams. Barely a mention of Punk in the closing sequences. Oh, WWE, what are you like?
That sounds about right, though, doesn't it? Like, that's part of why everybody got into this storyline, was that constantly, from day one, they made it seem like they were going to do something with Punk. Like, they made it seem that he was a bigger deal than they were letting on, but they also refused to do anything with him.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, you're spot on. That's how they got into that situation. Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Well, that's just it. Like, it's typical that they gave him the #1 contendership match. He's going to be in Money at the Bank. They've given him the storyline, and yet he's in the middle of the card, and they have other stuff way ahead of him, and that doesn't make any sense. And it's all about like John Cena and Randy Orton, even though the story should be John Cena and CM Punk.
That's it. WWE kind of tend to do this a lot. Like they end up booking themselves into a situation they never meant to book themselves into. Like, do you remember when Daniel Bryan didn't come out during the Royal Rumble, and then the fans shit in the whole match, and then he ended up in the main event of WrestleMania, and like, WWE did not intend for that to happen, but look what happened. Look what happened. I mean,
because of people power.
Because of power of the people, because people are voting on paper bag matches and submission matches, and yeah, that's how we ended up there. So June 27th Raw. So at the time, I forgot about this actually before I started watching it again. But CM Punk was in charge of the new Nexus, yes, with Mason Ryan, Michael McGillicuddy, and David Otunga. A literal who's that of professional wrestling.
Oh, the classics, man, the classics, the best ones of the Nexus.
My favorite Nexus is Nexusites. But yeah, up until the pipeline promo, he was actually cutting heel promos and insulting the fans with genuine heat from the crowd. So June 27th Raw, he cut a promo on Shawn Michaels. So Shawn Michaels is standing in the ring. CM Punk and the Nexus interrupt, and Shawn says to CM Punk, so certainly we've got a lot in common. We don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't do drugs. to what CM Punk quipped anymore, which I thought was great. That's a great line. Anyway, HBK catches a tongue off a speech and music out of nowhere, and then, to my investigative horror, I discovered that this was the era of the anonymous Raw general manager. What a fucking shit show.
Now you see, that's the thing, man. That's what annoys me about it. Because, like I said, I'm a big CM Punk fan. So, like, obviously, the best time to be a CM Punk fan is around about this time.
Yeah.
However, people forget, like, around about 2010, 2011 was heel Michael Cole and anonymous Raw GM. Two of the absolute worst things that they've ever done, ever. Bad. And it's so hard to go back and watch that stuff and then remember. Like, it's like, it really hits you hard. You're like, oh, shit. I was going to watch a good match. And then I just remembered Michael Cole's a heel. And then he stands up and talks to the fucking podium, And
yeah.
it almost ruins it. Like, you know what I mean?
It genuinely does. I mean, I completely forgot that was a thing. I managed to erase it from my memory, and like I somehow must have skipped it the week before and not heard it. But literally, just as they're doing the promo, that kind of text tone sounds, the kind of doodle. Yep. I'm like, oh no, like PTSD from like the anonymous Raw general manager.
You're like looking at your phone, going, "What did I get?" And then you look up and you're like, "Oh no,
oh no!" Michael Cole approaches the podium. So the GM via Michael Cole, as you say, this it fucking sucked. He booked Punk in a match using the Raw roulette wheel against,
of course,
just gimmick after gimmick. Like it's like fucking Vince Russo booking against the mystery opponent Kane. The man who, in kayfabe, remember, we're keeping it kayfabe and making kayfabe, would be the reason that Punk never came back to WWE for over 5 years after chokeslamming him through a table during Punk's final appearance in the 2014 Royal Rumble. The match ended with Punk running away from Kane and being counted out. What a heel. Later that night, Punk interrupted a tables match between John Cena and R-Truth, helping Truth spear Cena through a table to win the match. And then it happened, the pipe bomb promo. Where do you rank the pipe bomb promo in kind of wrestling history?
I mean, it's got to be up there, pretty high. But here's the thing: like, the good thing about Punk is that he's always good on the mic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like, you can rank this as one of the best promos ever. But you also got to remember that like a lot of the time, Punk had nothing to work with anyway, and made it work.
Yeah.
So like, I guess maybe because I've seen the pipe bomb so many times. Because I do love it, but like maybe I'm just getting a little bit jaded about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Obviously, it's great. You know what? I'll have to like watch it again because I might be like, it's probably not as good as I remember it, and then I go back and watch it. I'm like, oh, it is as good as I remember it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I watched it on Raw, and to be honest, it is as good as I remember it. It's a great promo. It's like, just CM Punk is that charisma. He's one of the best in the mic in the business, ever. I would say he's up there with Flair. He's up there with, all the best of them. So The Rock, he's up there with Cena. He's up there with Hogan. He's one of the best interviews in wrestling ever.
Oh, he's definitely better than Hogan. He is 100% better than Hogan.
Oh yeah, I mean Hogan just shouted at the camera and said brother and Jack a lot.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Not as good as his predecessor Viscera, but I mean, we can't all be as good as Viscera. So
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I think that if you're listening to this podcast and you know wrestling, you know what the pipe bomb promo is. If you don't, go and look it up. It is genuinely one of the best promos ever cut.
Yeah, just like we're not even going to do it justice by even like trying to do it. Just go to YouTube, type in CM Punk pipe bomb promo. You'll get the goods.
It'll be there. Yeah, exactly. During the promo, he mentions other promotions as well, which was just not done back then. He says, maybe they're talking about the WWE Championship. Maybe I'll go defend it in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Maybe I'll go back to Ring of Honor, which we'll touch on later. Hey, Colt Cabana, how are you doing? He also said that. And then Punk's mic gets cut and the show ends. So at this point, Punk's leaving. It's all over the internet. There's plenty of speculation. Nobody quite knows whether he's re-signed with WWE or not. all the wrestling forums are going crazy with mad theories about where Punk goes next. Brian Alvarez notes on the June 28th Figure 4 Weekly that Punk has been pulled from all post July 17th house shows. And the writing crew has been told that he will not be available for TV after that date. So, WWE are going a long way to sort of work everybody, I suppose. They've literally pulled him from all house show advertisements. They've told the writing crew stop writing for CM Punk after the 17th of July. They're going really into this.
Yeah, that was the best thing about it, was the real sense of realness and realism to it, where like nobody knew what was going to happen. Like that's something that we really miss from wrestling these days, I think. That real realism to it. And I remember those days. They were a lot of fun, because I was like, yeah, he's gonna leave. I didn't really think that they would do anything good with it, because they very rarely do, but
yeah, I was convinced myself at the time. I remember thinking back, and like I genuinely thought he was leaving as well, and then we see what happens. But July 4th Raw kicks off with John Cena in the ring. He announces that CM Punk has been suspended. So he says CM Punk has been suspended indefinitely for speaking his mind. As a note, by the way, CM Punk doesn't appear in this show at all. Cena doesn't want an answer from the anonymous Raw general manager. He's going over the anonymous Raw GM's head and going straight to Vince McMahon for making this decision. Cena demands that Punk is reinstated, and bearing in mind this is where WWE were literally doing anything to get Cena cheered. He says that he wants to face CM Punk despite his contract being due to end hours after their match. So Vince comes out to confront Cena at the end of the show. He says CM Punk is just that, a punk, and he explains why he suspended Punk. He says if CM Punk defeats you, John Cena, he's going to walk out of here. The next day, CM Punk is going to walk into some other wrestling organization saying, see what I walked out with. I'm going to be embarrassed. I will not be embarrassed. Cena, talking about how Vince thinks the WWE title will be meaningless if Punk wins it, says, if you just kick Punk to the curb, you've already made it meaningless. He hands the championship over to Vince McMahon and walks away. Enraged, Vince McMahon calls after him. He follows Cena up the ramp and gets in his face. He says, CM Punk's reinstated. You've got your match. If CM Punk walks out of Chicago with the WWE Championship, I'll walk right down that aisle and look right in your face and say, John Cena, you're fired.
Was this just a big excuse for you to pull out your Vince McMahon impression?
Yes, this whole podcast is an elaborate excuse for me to bring up my Vince McMahon impression. Yeah.
It's very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might even play a soundbite on top of that to make it sound even better. But yeah, so that's the stipulation on the line. So CM Punk wins, he leaves the WWE title, and Cena, he gets fired. So
right,
so
you can see why a lot of people were like, "Well, CM Punk definitely isn't winning now," because why would they fire? Even in kayfabe, like why would they get rid of John Cena?
Exactly. It doesn't make sense why they would do that. And it doesn't make sense what they've done afterwards either. But I mean, we'll get to that. July 11th Raw. It's the go home show for Money in the Bank. So CM Punk opens the show. He walks down that ramp with a megaphone in his hand, just in case his mic gets cut again. He cuts another good heel promo, mentioning such things as making WWE relevant to the real world, not the WWE universe, because they don't really matter. Still a heel. Tonight, there's a live contract negotiation between CM Punk and Vince McMahon. Cena comes out, cuts a standard kind of Cena promo, and then the anonymous Raw general manager pipes up, for fuck's sake. Mr. McMahon is en route to negotiate with CM Punk, Michael Cole announces. Cena is asked to stay in the ring as he'll be competing in a very special match. We cut to a commercial break, and then when we're back, we learn that Cena has been booked in a handicap match against the WWE Tag Team Champions, David Otunga and Michael McGillicuddy. You can probably guess what happens. Cena defeats them with ease, pinning McGillicuddy with an attitude adjustment. Yeah. even in 2011, WWE didn't give a shit about protecting their tag team champions, which is still happening today. And yeah, tag team wrestling is basically a joke in WWE. At the end of the show, we have the contract negotiation. So Punk demands a lot of things. He demands, so it's him, Vince McMahon, and a table in the middle of the ring, and they're negotiating the contract. So Punk demands his own private jet. He demands his face on everything from the Titantrons to the turnbuckles to cups to socks, and to bring back the WWE ice cream bars, which got a massive pop. He demands that WWE films start production on CM Punk the movie, and he demands the main event of WrestleMania, which was currently John Cena versus The Rock, to be whatever match CM Punk competes in, and that Vince McMahon has to apologize for suspending him. There was also a funny, interesting line from CM Punk in the promo. He says to Vince, "You don't know what makes a superstar in 2011. You don't know what these people want." Fast forward 8 years and not a lot's changed.
Yeah, man's not wrong. Man's not wrong.
Man's not wrong. And yeah, and they were very, very loud. "We want ice cream" chants, which, yeah, wrestling.
To be fair, though, I still want those ice cream bars.
I never. Did you ever have one of those ice cream bars?
Not a WWE one, but I've had ice cream bars before, and I love them. So
Tell me about them.
an ice cream bar, it's literally just a big old bar of ice cream.
All right.
But
Great.
the WWE ones had that have little faces on them.
Oh, of
And,
course.
so The Rock or CM Punk or whatever, and the faces would be made out of caramel or something in the ice cream.
Right. I see.
And you'd hold it like I guess kind of like an ice cream sandwich. I don't know. I can't remember if there was like anything over the top. I think it was just like pure ice cream.
Yeah.
But yeah, an ice cream with CM Punk's face on it. I'm all over that, man.
I'd eat the hell out of that.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah. Cena interrupts, calls Punk a hypocrite for hyping up the fans and getting them on his side, says that all CM Punk wants to do is win the WWE title and walk out. And in a line that I don't understand because I don't follow baseball, CM Punk accuses Cena of becoming the New York Yankees, which inexplicably causes Cena to deck Punk. He's fucking levers him. Punk leaves the ring and after getting punched in the face, retreats up the ramp and cuts another mini pipe bomb. He says, "Say goodbye to John Cena, say goodbye to the WWE Championship, and say goodbye to CM Punk. I'll go be the best in the world somewhere else." Excellent line to close the show. I'll say it right now. I know that I'm rebooking this, but up to this point, the storyline has been pretty much perfect. I mean, it's an incredible, unique feud. WWE needed this feud in 2011. What do you make of things so far?
I think you're right. Like at the beginning, whenever we find out that Punk was going to be fighting Cena, and that happened in like the middle of Raw, and almost like a throwaway fucking thing. I was like, this sounds typical WWE. But then once they start giving the right time and the right attention to the storyline, then you start to understand like the gravity of it, and they had the right guys involved. CM Punk, John Cena both know how to talk and both know how to hype up a match. So, they quickly put all of the pieces into place to get you interested in the main event, which is exactly what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. It generally was one of the most hyped kind of matches of that kind of period, and probably the most hyped match because it was just nobody knew what was going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, we move on to Money in the Bank, July 17th, 2011. So yeah, as well as the big money match between CM Punk and John Cena, the show featured happenings such as Christian defeating Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship via DQ. There was a rule stipulation in the match that if Randy Orton got himself disqualified, that Christian would become champion. We've got Mark Henry defeating The Big Show. We've got Alberto Del Rio and Daniel Bryan winning the respective Raw and SmackDown Money in the Bank matches. And in a match that is a main event in any country, Kelly defeated Brie Bella. for the
Oh,
Divas Championship. Yeah,
oh, how about that, man?
yeah.
Good for her. Good for her.
Meltzer gave it 5 stars, I'm pretty sure.
Well, he's a fucking Kelly Mark though, so.
Yeah, he is. It's always said Dave Meltzer's favorite wrestlers. Tanahashi, Omega, Kelly.
Kelly. Yeah.
The list goes on. But jesting aside, the Money in the Bank 2011 has gone down as one of the greatest PPVs of all time. So, obviously, the main event was CM Punk versus John Cena. Legitimately, the match was given high praise by Dave Meltzer, who gave it 5 stars. So
Even though Kelly wasn't in it.
even though Kelly wasn't in it, and it wasn't in Tokyo Dome. So yeah, it's insanity. But by the way, and just as a sidebar of research, I found this quite surprising. So to this date, not counting NXT, there's been no other 5-star match, 5-star rated match in WWE since. Not one.
Says a lot, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
also, I'd like to ask this: when was that? 2011, right?
Yes.
Also, since that date, how often have John Cena and CM Punk fought each other in a one-on-one match?
That's a good point. I do remember once there was an episode of Raw, and I remember this only because in the match CM Punk hit John Cena with a pile driver, and the fans went crazy because like pile driver's like a banned move in WWE, remember?
Yes.
And CM Punk hit him with a pile driver, so I think they got fined for that or something. But that was a really good match as well. I can't remember what the context of the match was. It was maybe like a year later or something, but it was a great match. But I don't know if it got 5 stars or not. But yeah, not one 5-star match in WWE. Like Johnny Gargano and versus Andrade versus Adam Cole versus Ciampa and NXT got all the 5 stars. But yeah, not one in actual main show WWE got a 5-star rating. That's insane.
It's kind of crazy, yeah.
Yeah, whereas New Japan are cranking them out daily. As we're recording this, the G1's actually happening, so there's a lot of 5-star matches there. Anyway, the match was spectacular, and I'd highly recommend going back and watching it if you get the chance. It's all there in the WWE network. Free plug for you there, Vince. Towards the end of the match, Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis come out. CM Punk, distracted, gets caught in an STF by John Cena, and McMahon starts frantically waving at the timekeeper to end the match, just like the last time somebody was leaving WWE with a championship, Bret Hart. John Laurinaitis runs over to the timekeeper's area, but he is floored by Cena after he breaks the hold on Punk and exits the ring, not wanting the match to end that way. Cena shouts at Vince McMahon, gets back in the ring, and boom, gets hit with a GTS for the 1-2-3. CM Punk is the new WWE champion. Amazing moment. Vince McMahon gets in the commentator's headset. He demands for CM Punk's music to be cut. He then demands for the Money in the Bank winner Alberto Del Rio to come down to the ring and cash in on CM Punk. Del Rio, doing what he's told, runs down to the ring and gets roundhouse kicked in the side of the head by Punk. Punk then leaves the ring, enters the crowd, and we see what is probably my favourite shot in wrestling history. The one, CM Punk kissing McMahon goodbye as he holds the WWE Championship in his hand, the crowd all around him and just escaping through the crowd. Excellent. Absolutely excellent. F4W Online experienced a massive website crash, as reported by Alvarez, seconds after the 3 count, basically due to the sheer amount of people logging on at the website to figure out what the fuck was going on. At the time, they did record business for subscription sign-ups, so everyone's wanting to find out what happened. Brian Alvarez wrote in the July 19 Figure 4 Weekly, it's rare, particularly these days, that you shoot an angle, everyone gets really excited about it, and then it pays off big after CM Punk won the WWE title, which, yeah, he's right. It's a really big payoff, but did it continue to pay off? That is the question. I mean,
wow. I think we both know the answer to that.
Well, let's find out. So, undoubtedly, the scene of CM Punk holding the title and blowing the kiss goodbye is iconic. And yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, what Alvarez didn't know at the time is where we would go from here. So where do we go from here, I hear you ask? So the next Monday on Raw, true to Punk's claim that he was leaving WWE, there was no Punk. Apparently, this was in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, to egg on the Punk chance that you sometimes hear even today. WWE had Justin Roberts, the ring announcer, get on the mic just like seconds before the show started and warned the fans that Vince McMahon had outright banned the CM Punk chants, which is a genius move, because obviously they're just going to chant them even louder. So, of course, there was a stipulation for Punk Cena match that if Cena lost and Punk left for the WWE title, Vince McMahon would fire Cena. So Vince McMahon opens the show saying the crowd shouldn't chant CM Punk's name. He walked out and everybody saying nobody is bigger than the WWE. Vince McMahon announces an 8-man single elimination tournament to crown a new WWE champion. So we've got an 8-man tournament: Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger versus R-Truth, Kofi Kingston versus Alberto Del Rio. By the way, given that Del Rio was already the Money in the Bank holder, couldn't he just say, "Hey, this title was mine. I'll have that. Cheers." But yeah, logic. And Alex Riley versus The Miz. So yeah, they had their matches, and the finals were basically The Miz versus Rey Mysterio. So before the finals begin, Vince McMahon comes out for a promo towards the end of the show and gets interrupted by Cena. So remember, Vince said he'd fire Cena if he lost. Cena cuts a passionate promo about his love for WWE, and a shiny moment. He makes a rare TNA reference on WWE programming, believe it or not. Do you remember this one?
I don't think I do.
Oh, it's brilliant. It caught me off guard as well. I wasn't expecting it, but he was talking about his impending firing. He says, if you make me walk out tonight, then I will walk on someone else's television show and keep doing this, brother. And a clear reference to Hulk Hogan being in Power in TNA at the time. So that was caught me off guard. Really cool. You don't see that. I mean, yeah, TNA never get mentioned. Like when Sting came into WWE and when Kurt Angle came into WWE, TNA was never ever mentioned. Same with Samoa Joe. Same with anyone who's AJ Styles. Basically anything that's not WWE doesn't exist. So that was weird to hear. So Triple H then interrupts to tell McMahon that the board is concerned about him. He informs Vince McMahon that he is being relieved of his duties. Then fans sing the na 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 hey hey goodbye as Vince cries in the ring and the show goes off the air. And the July 25th Raw, the next week, kicks off with a match between Rey Mysterio and The Miz for the WWE Championship. So the first match of the show is for the WWE Championship. Mysterio wins.
Miz is in it.
And The Miz is in it. You love The Miz, don't you?
Not even gonna comment on The Miz, because it's too early in the show. This is our first show. It's way too early for me to start cursing at The Miz too much.
It's gonna happen, but
evidently, that's gonna be one of mine in the future. It's just rewriting history where The Miz never existed.
How to make a good storyline out of The Miz? You don't.
Just you fire him and then kill him.
It. He doesn't exist. Yeah. So yeah, Mysterio wins. You'll be glad to know.
I'm very glad to know.
Yeah, and begins one of the shortest WWE title reigns of all time. Because shortly afterwards, Triple H announces John Cena as the first challenger for Rey Mysterio's title. That's right, he's not fired. They fight that very night, and John Cena wins, making Rey Mysterio's WWE title reign roughly an hour long. CM Punk then returns with his new entrance music, Cult of Personality, and confronts Cena in the middle of the ring. This is the aftermath of Money in the Bank, and what an absolute kerfuffle. In the space of a week, you had the following. You had you had John Cena as WWE. I'm already confused. In the space of a week, you had John Cena was WWE champion. Then CM Punk was WWE champion. Then CM Punk wasn't WWE champion. Then there was no WWE champion. Then Rey Mysterio was WWE champion, but only for an hour. Then John Cena was WWE champion, but then CM Punk returns as WWE champion, and nobody knows what the fuck is going on.
Right, This is what I was gonna bring up, man. You know, it was like not 5 minutes ago that you were saying this storyline's playing out pretty well.
Yeah.
How quickly? Bear in mind that this is the Raw after Money in the Bank, so we're talking like 24 hours.
Yeah.
How quickly did they fuck that up? Like, here's the thing: once you realize that, like, Rey Mysterio winning the interim belt is okay, but then once you see John Cena coming out and challenging Rey Mysterio for no reason, despite the fact, like you said, Del Rio is already the Money in the Bank holder, could easily have done this himself.
Yeah.
John Cena comes out, demands a match. Rey Mysterio gives it to him. John Cena wins. By this point, like, alarm bells are ringing. I'm like, they've fucked it up already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
So
already
quickly.
you know that they've just screwed it up.
That's it. And yeah, by the way, Vince McMahon got fired as well, despite being the owner of the company. And worst of all, the anonymous Raw general manager is still a thing. It's still a thing in the show. But yeah, like, just things were so great and they went so wrong. And yeah, in my opinion, and clearly what you're saying there, yours as well, they screwed up the storyline at that point. It just wasn't as interesting anymore. Things got too complex too quickly. So yeah, I put my fantasy booking hat on and pulled together everything I could pull together to keep this storyline going. So here it is. Here's Making Kayfabe. What should have happened? So are you ready for this, Dylan? Are you ready for what I've got planned?
I am so excited because I got so happy about reliving CM Punk being champion, and then so, like, kind of brought down to earth with the terrible booking from the Raw afterwards. So now I'm excited to see how you're gonna, like, because to be fair though, like, it wouldn't be that hard to pull that storyline off to a competent degree. You know what I mean?
That's it, yeah,
like,
exactly.
To their credit, it takes an awful lot of stupidity to be able to fuck it up that badly. You know what I mean?
If anyone can do it, it's WWE.
And they did it. Boy, how did they do it? So I'm excited to hear how you, like, fill the cracks and fix their mistakes. You know?
Well, here we go, man. So this is what I've got planned. So now, let's be honest. In 2011, wrestling was pretty much as uncool as it's ever been. The WWE didn't have Steve Austin or The Rock anymore. Didn't have anyone like Hogan or Savage. Instead, they had the anonymous Raw general manager and Michael fucking Cole.
And The Miz.
And The Miz. And they still got The Miz. That's never going to change. But yeah, TNA was being run into the ground by Hogan and Bischoff. New Japan wasn't quite as hugely popular as it is these days, but it was getting there with stars like Tanahashi and Naito and Shinsuke Nakamura coming into the fold.
Boy.
Your boy. In the Indies, ROH was at the forefront of the revolution. PWG was putting, low-key putting on the best shows of the independent scene, and CZW was kicking about here and there too. So my idea is what I believe could have led to a wrestling boom period, much like the Attitude Era, but in 2011. So brief disclaimer here. Everything I'm about to say is completely my own opinion based on the research I've done. I'm not a wrestling booker. I'm not involved with WWE or anything. There are without a doubt going to be plot holes in this story, but I'm going to do my best to wrap everything up. Yeah, the fact that this didn't happen and probably never would have happened allows me to go into the extra mile of trying to tell the best story I possibly can. So week one, I like the idea of Justin Roberts just before the cameras roll, making the announcement that Vince McMahon has banned the Punk chants the night after Money in the Bank. It really is a perfect way to open the show after CM Punk has left. Loud CM Punk chants, so loud that you can barely hear the commentators. Turn up the volume of the crowd if you have to. You have to make it known that CM Punk leaving is a phenomenally huge deal. So here's what happens. So Vince McMahon comes out and is the first person to address the happenings of last night at Money in the Bank. He grabs the microphone and says something along the lines of, it's against my own will that I had to break this news because I feel as though I have done everything possible to prevent it, but I can confirm that Phil Brooks, CM Punk, has indeed signed an exclusive contract with Ring of Honor Wrestling. As such, Mr. Brooks is no longer part of World Wrestling Entertainment, and we wish him the best in his future endeavors. In the same promo, he publicly fires John Cena. Cena's gone for now, out of the question. Give the guy some time off. He deserves it after being on the road every day, putting on great matches, doing all the TV appearances and Make-A-Wishes and all the awesome stuff he does. Let him rest his body and come back when shit's getting real. It's senseless to promise his firing and not deliver it. So he's out of here. He's fired. McMahon makes an excuse that WWE were caught off guard with Punk taking their championship over to a competitor in Ring of Honor. So he's going to announce plans on the WWE Championship next week, live Monday night on Raw. So yeah, we don't need to rush this. That's the thing. I felt that WWE rushed the storyline too quickly when in the kind of fallout of Money in the Bank. Take it easy. Like storylines, great storylines don't happen in the space of 2 weeks. You need to build this stuff. So, right now you've got over on SmackDown, you've got Christian as world champion, you've got Dolph Ziggler as US champion, Ezekiel Jackson, remember him, as Intercontinental champion. Why did we need a WWE champion at this very moment? WWE's proven that even in the modern era, they can survive without a WWE champion appearing every week, and we see that with Brock Lesnar constantly. Let the news sink in that CM Punk is literally no longer with WWE and that he has the WWE Championship at Ring of Honor. That's plenty to keep people interested until the next week. Now, I'll make my case for CM Punk ending up in Ring of Honor. I'll touch on how and why he's with ROH in a few minutes, but I think it's important to get some background. So I've got a question for you. So who do you think was on the ROH roster in 2011? So I'm talking exclusive deals. By this time, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Chris Sabin, Austin Aries, and all the rest were snatched away by TNA. So who do you think was left in ROH in 2011? I'm talking like active roster.
In Ring of Honor, I would imagine you're talking Kevin Steen.
Yep.
Talking El Generico.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Briscoes.
Yep.
Oh shoot! Who else would be around then? Oh, good lord! 2011.
Yeah, you've got three of the main ones. Like I've got. Do you want a full list?
Cole Cabana was there. Cole Cabana was definitely there.
He was there. Yeah, pre-lawsuit, and Punk's best friend.
Pre-best friend.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'll give you a list. So you've got four of the main ones. So Kevin Steen, like you said, of course, Kevin Owens. El Generico, of course, Sami Zayn. You got the Young Bucks here. You got Tommaso Ciampa there. You got Kyle O'Reilly, Jay Lethal, Roderick Strong, Chris Hero, Cassius Ohno. The Briscoes, as you mentioned. Cole Cabana, as you mentioned, Cedric Alexander, Jimmy Jacobs, Adam Cole, Eddie Edwards, Davey Richards, Michael Elgin, Claudio Castagnoli, Cesaro, and Christopher Daniels. Literally a who's who of great professional wrestlers. That was a stacked roster in ROH.
Yes, but not only are they great wrestlers, but there are guys who would be great against a CM Punk.
Yeah, exactly. People who could have a great match with CM Punk. Everyone on that roster who could have a great match with CM Punk. And like most of them, I'm pretty sure almost most of them made it to like a major promotion after that. The Briscoes stayed with Ring of Honor, I know that much. But Michael Elgin went to TNA. Obviously Cesaro and Owens and Zayn and Roderick Strong, Adam Cole, they all went to WWE, and it's a great roster, and there's a lot to mine there. One thing to mention that is during this time, and I was surprised at this, ROH wasn't on TV. They didn't have a TV show, so bearing in mind these events are in June to August of 2011. So on April 4th of 2011, ROH on HDNet ceased airing after its 100th episode, only to return to television screens on the September 24th of the same year, after it was purchased by Sinclair Broadcasting Group on May 21st. The return to television was met with a lot of promise for this promotion, with Dave Meltzer saying in the September 26 Observer that the company is either going to be taking its biggest strides in its history over the next year, or it's going to be its biggest failure. it goes without saying that a wrestling company isn't going to get very far without television. There's thousands of local indie companies in the world who are ticking away and making ends meet without television, but I mean, you've never heard of them. ROH was going to be away from television screens for a long time, and though this never happened, had potential to fade away into obscurity as its name was spoken less and less by wrestling fans until its re-emergence in September. So at the time, WWE had no real competition. TNA attempted to go head-to-head with WWE on Monday nights and failed miserably. There was nobody within reach of the powerhouse of wrestling. Everyone's arms were too short to box with God. Vince McMahon himself has been referenced many times in the past to missing the competition that WCW gave him in the Attitude Era. He's a man who longs for competition. Clearly, with TNA's efforts, the competition was never going to come until 2018, 2019, when AEW was announced. So, what better way to get back that Attitude Era boom period than to make his own competition? So, behind the scenes, Vince and WWE invest in Ring of Honor in a very similar way that they helped ECW back in the late 90s and early 2000s. That whole thing with them having a deal with Paul Heyman and, financially supporting ECW.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, week 2 rolls around, and we are yet to hear from CM Punk about his move to Ring of Honor. Sure, ROH have confirmed their capture of the WWE champion on their social media platforms, but Punk hasn't been seen or heard from since Money in the Bank. Vince McMahon, keeping his word, opened the show to discuss the WWE Championship situation, and what he plans to do now is that it's in the hand. What he plans to do now that's in the hands of another company. Frustrated, he screams to the fans, "This is what would have happened if I didn't screw Bret Hart in Montreal, He threatens to strip Punk of the title and forgets he ever existed. He will be erased from the history books, and Money in the Bank 2011 will never be mentioned again. They're his history books after all. He can do whatever he wants, damn it. Hell, he can make himself the WWE champion if he wanted to. It's his company, it's his belt." He announces that CM Punk is no longer a WWE champion, and that he'll be sending his lawyers to Ring of Honor to claim back the property that is rightfully WWE's. But then Cult of Personality blasts through the arena. Vince McMahon looks up to the Titantron, and there he is. It's CM Punk wearing an ROH t-shirt and holding the WWE Championship on his shoulder. In the background, we see the names that we mentioned earlier, like Steen and Generico, Daniels, Briscoes, Cabana. All of the ROH talent are sitting behind him in the locker room. So McMahon is outraged and throwing a fit in the ring. Punk taunts McMahon. He says, "Classic Vince McMahon. There's never a problem when you have enough money to throw at it, right? Don't you miss the good old days, Vince? The wrestling days, where WCW had you by the balls and you had to pray that they screw up somehow. You had to fight and scratch and claw for every opportunity you got those days, and there was no guarantee that your precious company would last until the next day. Now, life is easy. You're the biggest wrestling company in the world, and all you have to do is reach into your wallet to bat away anyone who dares try to compete with you. The coward's way out. Are you a coward, Vince? Is this what you've become? This isn't the Vince McMahon I know. Where's the ruthless aggression, Vince? So Vince is furious. He's sweating, he's spitting, he's making all the kinds of facial expressions that only Vince McMahon can. He screams into the microphone, "You know what, Punk? If you're not going to give me my title back, then I'm going to come and take it, damn it. Get the hell off my Titantron." So, yeah. CM Punk's feed gets removed from the Titantron, and Raw rolls on as normal. It's a normal show after that. It's not mentioned again. So here's the thing. ROH doesn't return to television until September 24th with their annual pay-per-view Death Before Dishonor happening the week before that, on September 17th. So that gives you 2 months to put full focus into building yourself some proper main eventers. So there's no Cena around right now to take the spotlight, so it forces WWE to get fully behind guys who never really became the main event attraction they could have been. So, have them get behind Rey Mysterio and his submission moves. Who sell like tons of merch because of the mask, because of his mask. Let them push Del Rio, as a ferocious heel who can take on anyone. Push guys like Sheamus, Jack Swagger, Chris Masters up to the upper mid-card position, and invest in Daniel Bryan because he's going to become a big part of the story soon as well. In the meantime, have CM Punk wrestle at indie shows. Let him go to CZW. Book a match with him in PWG. If they allow it, let him go to New Japan. He defends the WWE title everywhere he goes. So 2 months pass, and WWE has put a lot of effort into making some new stars. Now, I appreciate 2 months isn't a huge amount of time to make a megastar, but it's enough time to, at least invest in some genuine emotion in characters. I mean, people like Ray and Alberto and Johnny Mundo and R-Truth, etc. They already have a bit of star power. All they need to be is just pushed to the moon. Yeah.
Just for clarification's sake, I think 2 months is enough time, because in the original Ring of Honor Summer of Punk thing, when he did this the first time, 5-6 years earlier, he was only champion for the summer. Yeah, he was only champion from June till August sometime. So it really only was champion then for 2 months, but that's all he needed.
That's it. It's all you need. Like, if you put things right, then if you keep things interesting and keep the fans guessing, then you're sorted basically. But
you raise a good point, because I'll bring this up maybe later at the end. But whenever you're talking about building up new stars, because you're right, like whoever beats Punk is going to get a rub. Yeah. Right? It's obvious because he's the heel and he's got a real good story, and they want the whole point of that is to take the championship off him. So whoever does take the championship off him is going to look really good, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
If you want, we can do this at the end, or we can do this now. But I'd be very interested if you know who the person was who beat CM Punk in Ring of Honor for the championship.
I don't actually know.
You've got 2 months. Like, how do we get the belt off this guy? What do we do? What's the best course of action?
So this is what actually happened in Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
I'm starting to think, it's a really weird guess, but was it Jamie Noble?
It was Jamie Noble. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, I remember James Gibson or whatever he was called over there. But I remember him being a champion over there. So, I had no idea he beat Punk. I had no idea.
So Jamie Noble beat CM Punk. The guy, with no real push. Like, he was a guy, but he wasn't really like, big name. Like, for example, the guy Punk beat was Austin Aries, and the guy before that was Samoa Joe.
Yeah, so like legitimate. No, not that Jamie Noble wasn't legitimate, but like synonymous names with ROH.
Exactly. And then guess who beat Jamie Noble?
Nigel McGuinness.
Close. Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Danielson, bloody hell.
So Jamie Noble was champion for like just over a month, and then Danielson came in and like killed it for 2 years or whatever. Yeah. So you're like, while the Ring of Honor one got the right story, it played for the right amount of time, everything went well. Doesn't it seem weird that the belt? I mean, I guess it's okay if the belt changes hands in a fatal 4-way like that. I mean, that's how it happened. It changed in a fatal 4-way. Like, wouldn't it have made more sense for it to have been like a 1-on-1 to really put over that one star? Yeah. Wouldn't that have done way better for Jamie Noble? You know what I mean?
That's it. It made him a bigger star. I mean, Jamie Noble was already... we'll touch on this in another episode, but I really liked Jamie Noble's run in WWE when he was like the kind of trailer park trash kind of deal with Nydia, and like that was like my prime era when I was a kid watching WWE. Like, I loved that.
He is a great wrestler. Like, I'm not having a go at him, but what I'm saying is that I feel like as good as Ring of Honor is, I feel like they missed a trick there by really capitalizing on what could have been a good... The cultivation of a good storyline.
Exactly, that's it. And like, it shows how easy it is to, mess up a storyline that's been not mess it up, but I mean to make a storyline less effective after you've been building this awesome story for a long time. So yeah, I mean that hopefully we can find a better way to have Punk lose the title here. So let's keep reading. Go for it. So. ROH's last pay-per-view before they go back on television was Death Before Dishonor, which rolls around on September 17th. So in the main events of Death Before Dishonor, you have CM Punk defending the WWE Championship against Alberto Del Rio, who has the Money in the Bank briefcase, meaning that he can get a shot at the WWE title anytime, and most importantly, anywhere, even in someone else's promotion. So yeah, so Del Rio, as touched on previously, is the guy who won Money in the Bank, so he's got the big red briefcase, and he also tried to attack Punk before he escaped at Money in the Bank itself. So the thinking is that Vince McMahon sends him to invade Ring of Honor at their Death Before Dishonor show, just before Ring of Honor comes back onto mainstream TV. So yeah, Del Rio enters Death Before Dishonor to the biggest heel reaction ever. I'd imagine if this happened, it wouldn't be too dissimilar from John Cena at One Night Stand 2, against Rob Van Dam. But yeah, both guys are very accomplished wrestlers and are capable of putting on a hell of a show. So they have a great 20-25 minute indie style match, but alas, Del Rio falls to the go to sleep and Punk closes the show holding the WWE Championship high above his head with the ROH logo in the background. So at this point, Vince McMahon's not happy. He chastises Del Rio the next night on Raw for blowing the opportunity to become a WWE legend. ROH TV has begun, and now CM Punk is featuring week after week holding the WWE title and defending it against the likes of Roddy Strong and Adam Cole. People who at the time were never thought to be WWE caliber due to their size. So Vince starts, clutching at straws. He's sending superstar after superstar to ROH shows to take the WWE title off Punk. He sends Big Show. He sends Batista. He sends Kane. He sends Miz. Why not Miz? Basically,
I tell you why not Miz. I'll tell you exactly why not Miz.
That's a whole other podcast. But basically, a whole host of guys who are, anti-indie, who are very much classed as WWE guys rather than indie darlings. So unfortunately for Vince, all of them become overpowered by the hugely passionate ROH roster at the time, and they're unable to do Mr. McMahon's bidding for them and bring the championship home. So soon McMahon realizes that he has to fight fire with fire. If you want to beat an indie darling, you've got to be an indie darling. So my question to you, who do you think is the best choice for that on the WWE roster at the moment? So which wrestler in WWE, which wrestler does WWE have at its disposal in 2011 who is synonymous with the indies and who could believably slot right back into his former role at Ring of Honor?
Well, I think you've given enough clues with that question there, Bryce, to really give away the answer. It's a young man that we've already name dropped not that long ago, Bryan Danielson, or should we call him Daniel Bryan? Daniel
fucking Bryan. You're absolutely right. Daniel Bryan, who holds the SmackDown Money in the Bank contract. So sure, that's a shot for the world title, but Vince is clutching at straws here, so he's happy to bend the rules slightly. We're now well into October at this stage, and ROH's TV ratings are going up and up every week with the amount of attention Punk's getting them. Vince McMahon assures Punk that, since the WWE Championship is owned by him, he can allow anyone he wants to fight for it, and he'll let Daniel Bryan do just that. So a heel Daniel Bryan walks out on Monday Night Raw and he cuts a passionate promo on Punk and Ring of Honor. So he says, "What did Ring of Honor ever do for me? I spent years in Ring of Honor. I gave that company everything I had. I lost my damn eyesight in a match against Takeshi Morishima. And for what? $100 paycheck to offset the medical bills, which are never covered by in full by the company. To go from what is apparently best of the indies and to make my debut in WWE in a stupid game show like NXT. I'm sick of hearing about ROH. I'm sick of being regarded as one of the best to come from there, because that's like saying I'm the nicest looking corpse in the mortuary. I am not Bryan Danielson. I am Daniel Bryan, a WWE guy through and through, and nothing will ever change that. CM Punk, I'll be coming to that cesspit next week, and we're going to have a match." So, yeah, massive heel heat for Daniel Bryan. Plenty of boos from the fans. And then we have it. So on Ring of Honor television, CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan, not Bryan Danielson. They go to a 60-minute draw on the show. Meltzer gives it like 8 stars or something. The internet raves about how it's the best match of all time, but the only drawback is that there's no winner. It was a draw, a 60-minute draw. Hence, CM Punk still WWE champions. So then we get to November. WWE has been at war with Ring of Honor for 4 months now, and despite throwing everything he can at it, Vince can't seem to win back his WWE Championship. He's had enough, and in true McMahon fashion, he wants to have that one more shot and risk it all. He's accepted that one WWE guy cannot beat CM Punk. Well, Punk has a kind of home advantage at Ring of Honor, so how about 5 WWE guys? Survivor Series 2011. 10 years after the infamous WWE versus WCW/ECW Survivor Series elimination match, they're going to do it all over again, but this time it's WWE versus ROH. There's 5 WWE guys, there's 5 ROH guys, last man standing wins. So there are, of course, terms to the match. If Team ROH win, Vince McMahon must accept that the WWE title is no longer his, and that the championship and all of its years of prestige belong to CM Punk. If Team WWE win, Punk must return the WWE title to Vince and ends this whole affair and just lets, ROH get on with their business. So here's the teams that get announced a few weeks before Survivor Series. So we've got Team ROH. It's led by CM Punk, obviously, who chooses Kevin Steen, El Generico, and the Kings of Wrestling to be on his team. So Castagnoli and Hero to join in the fight against WWE. For Team WWE, we have Daniel Bryan leading a team of Alberto Del Rio, The Big Show, Batista, and the returning John Cena, who Vince McMahon rehires in an effort to put everything he has into this match. He can't afford to lose this. That WWE Championship dates all the way back to the WWF in 1963. What would he do with himself if he lost that to a bunch of indie schmucks? The kind of indie promotion that he would have destroyed in the 80s. Anyway, in the lead up to Survivor Series, a lot of things are happening. So, first of all, Daniel Bryan is starting to show subtle signs of regret and conflict. So the 60-minute draw he had with CM Punk in ROH caused the Mermaids to flood back to him. And though on the surface, when around his team, he seems extremely anti-ROH, the cameras catch him every now and then watching his old ROH matches or liking ROH-based tweets, even going as far as to wear his old Ring of Honor gear to matches in the weeks leading up to Survivor Series. There's a huge question mark hanging over his head on whether he is truly loyal to WWE and, if he can lead a team filled with established sports entertainers like, Del Rio, Cena, Big Show, and Batista. Also, in the lead up, we start to learn more about the other characters associated in this match. Most of all, Kevin Steen, who is actually, acting equally as suspicious. Hidden camera footage shows him hanging around WWE superstars and even coming out of Vince McMahon's office, with a smile on his face. Footage starts to play of interviews he took part in pre-ROH during his ROH days, where he makes it clear that his ultimate goal was always to be a WWE superstar and nothing would ever stand in his way. So CM Punk is suspicious, and rightfully so. He worries that Steen will turn on them and ruin everything he's helped build with Ring of Honor. So, using his better judgment, he replaces Kevin Steen on Team Ring of Honor with his good friend, Colt Cabana, the week before Survivor Series. Steen is furious and vows to get revenge on CM Punk for embarrassing him in such a public manner. So, so here we are. We're at Survivor Series. This is it. This is the climax of the feud. So, WWE Survivor Series emanates from Madison Square Garden. On the undercard, much like Invasion 2001 or Survivor Series 2001, we can have various matches between WWE guys and ROH guys who are not in the main event. So we could have matches like Christian versus Roderick Strong, or we can have the Young Bucks versus Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston. We can have Adam Cole, baby, versus Randy Orton. We can have Wade Barrett versus Jay Lethal. There's endless possibilities there for dream matches that could have occurred back then. Anyway, these matches take place, and then it's time for your main event, Survivor Series 5-on-5 elimination match. So your teams again are Team ROH with CM Punk, Colt Cabana, El Generico, Claudio Castagnoli, and Chris Hero, and Team WWE with Daniel Bryan, John Cena, Alberto Del Rio, Batista, and The Big Show. What are you making of this so far?
I gotta say, you pulled out some very interesting stuff. I am intrigued about the Survivor Series thing. Like, that was a good move. And then while you said that, I was thinking I was thinking after you named that team, I'm like, it would be a good angle if one of those guys turned to the WWE. And then I was like, the guy I would imagine doing that would be Kevin Steen. And then that's exactly what you fucking said. And I'm like, well, there you go. Me and Bryce are in the same wavelength. But I gotta say, like, this is making sense. You know, I can dig it. I'm on board.
And I've not even mentioned the Raw general manager once.
Let me just clarify something real quick.
Yeah.
So Survivor Series match, two sides, two boysies.
Yes.
Fighting for the gold. If Punk's team wins, Punk is still the champion.
Yes. And he gets to keep the belt in Ring of Honor.
And if Daniel Bryan's team wins, Punk returns the belt. So it would be vacated.
Yes, he returns the belt to WWE, and that's it. He's gone. He's gone from WWE forever, and WWE get their championship back.
Could Vince McMahon have not vacated the belt himself at some point?
But that's the thing. So he's so remember earlier on he was goated by Punk. He was essentially called out by Punk, saying, all you do is throw money at things and they go away. You know, throw your money at the problems and they go away. So Vince is determined to win this belt back himself. Okay. He wants this he doesn't want to just buy this championship back and say, it's vacated and forget all about it. He wants to get one over on the guy who screwed him over. By taking his WWE Championship to another promotions, so that's the mentality going into this. So, so the match itself, the match is crazy and everything everyone expects from it. So eliminations occur every 5 minutes or so. Halfway through the match, the emotion starts to get very real. So things fall down to Team ROH with 2 men, CM Punk and El Generico, and Team WWE with 3 men. So Daniel Bryan, John Cena, Alberto Del Rio. At this particular moment in the match, it's 3 healthy men versus 2 heavily injured men, because CM Punk and El Generico are selling a beatdown from the recently eliminated Batista and Big Show, who have attacked CM Punk and El Generico and also taken out the referee. Alberto Del Rio tags himself into the match to take on a wounded El Generico, who can barely even stand at this point. He pulls Generico up to his knees and readies himself to hit him with the super kick of all super kicks. But then, to everyone's surprise, Kevin Steen rolls into the ring and takes a bullet for his longtime nemesis El Generico. The super kick connecting with his tempo and knocking him out. This is enough for Alberto Del Rio to stand in shock for a moment, which is enough time for El Generico to roll him up in a schoolboy pin as the referee comes to and gets the 1-2-3. Alberto Del Rio's out of there. Vince McMahon is now at ringside and he has his head in his hands. He is in genuine disbelief that Steen decided to do that. He was grooming Steen to turn on ROH, not in WWE. He clutches the WWE Championship close to his chest, fearful that he may genuinely be losing it for good. John Cena, to thunderous boos, doesn't waste any moments with entering the ring and hitting his attitude adjustment on an exhausted El Generico, eliminating him and bringing it down to 2-on-1. But then, also not wasting a moment, CM Punk enters the ring within a second of Cena eliminating Generico. As Cena turns round, distracted, CM Punk pulls him into a go-to-sleep and pins him, just like he did at Money in the Bank. Now it's down to 1 apiece. We've got CM Punk in the ring, we've got Daniel Bryan. While CM Punk recovers from the beatdown he suffered moments ago from Big Show and Batista, as well as his burst of energy to kind of get Cena on his shoulders and hit him with the GCS and eliminate him, Daniel Bryan's up to no good. He's made his way to ringside and he has snatched the WWE Championship away from Vince McMahon. He rolls back into the ring with Punk struggling to get to his feet, championship in hand, ready to strike Punk and end this feud in the most dastardly way possible. But then, the 2 former best friends lock eyes. The crowd, they're going wild in the background as CM Punk and Daniel Bryan just stare at each other. A pained expression is upon Daniel Bryan's face as he looks at Punk and then down at the WWE Championship and then back at Punk and then back at the title. Vince McMahon watches from the sidelines, speechless, no idea what's going to happen. To a roar of cheers, Daniel Bryan drops the WWE Championship to the floor. He opens up his arms, Punk gets to his feet and joins Daniel Bryan in the ring for a big, sweaty best friend hug. Vince is watching in abject horror at this point. How did it come to this? How did it come to two winter darlings being the difference between whether WWE keeps its most prestigious championship or not? The fans are cheering, the commentators are talking about what a moment this is, and that it's something that, nobody is ever going to forget. And then it happens. In the middle of the hug, CM Punk knees Daniel Bryan square in the nuts, immediately in front of the referee. The referee looks on with a straight face and does absolutely nothing about it. Vince McMahon at ringside begins to smile. Daniel Bryan looks up at CM Punk, his eyes not even dry from the emotional moment that had only just occurred. Utterly baffled at what Punk just did, CM Punk brings Bryan up to his shoulders and delivers a GTS to thunderous boos from the live crowd. He pins Daniel Bryan in the middle of the ring. Team ROH win. But have they really? Because moments later, Vince McMahon joins CM Punk in the middle of the ring, and they hug it out. No shots to the nut this time. It's a genuine hug over the unconscious body of Daniel Bryan, who's been knocked out from the GTS. CM Punk grabs the WWE Championship and, despite the stipulation, hands it over to Vince McMahon. He gets in the microphone and reveals that he has been under WWE payroll the entire time, in a ploy from Vince McMahon to prove that he will always rule and will always be one step ahead of the wrestling business. And now, because of Vince McMahon acting as a puppet master for the entire ROH involvement, WWE has the most eyes on it since the Attitude Era. Ratings are sky high. Nobody has been this invested in the company in years. And to cap it all off, Vince reveals that he has invested in Ring of Honor. He now owns a percentage of Ring of Honor, which means he owns the contracts of every Ring of Honor wrestler, and he can do whatever the hell he wants with them. As CM Punk smirks in the background, Vince is rattling off names in the ROH roster in what he plans to do with them. Claudio Castagnoli, that's too much of a mouthful. How about I call you Cesaro? El Generico, we've already got a masked luchador in our roster. He's called Rey Mysterio. Let's take your mask off. You won't be needing it here. Colt Cabana, you're not WWE material and you never will be. I don't need you on my roster. Punk's then given a microphone and he starts laying into the fans. All comes full circle. A few months ago, he was leaving WWE. There was a chance the fans would never see him again, and despite it, he was still booed. It was only until he dropped the pipe bomb on the company that they started cheering for him, like the pathetic sheep they are, following whatever zeitgeist they can find. Punk swears his loyalty to the WWE. He shows up in Raw the next night wearing a suit, where Vince McMahon declares him the official WWE champion. And that's when one of the longest WWE title reigns in history begins. Punk goes on to become the greatest heel in wrestling history. How long does Punk hold the title for? Who defeats him in the end? What happens to the rest of the ROH guys that Vince didn't already have plans for? I'll leave that for you to decide. What do you think?
Oh, I gotta tell you, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the heck out of that. I really liked the twist at the end. I mean, it's the kind of thing I should have seen coming, but I really enjoyed, because you can see it. You can see Vince McMahon going, it was me all along. I did this. I wouldn't be stupid enough to let Punk run away with my championship. Of course I knew what I was doing. Like, all of that makes sense. It would have been sweet. Like, it would have been a really cool thing to see live. Like, and then that could just builds up, Daniel Bryan is like the face to chase after Punk. Like, that's good, man. I gotta give you props for that one. Well played.
It's very much it's me, Austin, kind of reveal. But I mean, I think it makes sense in the end. And a disclaimer again: this never happened, obviously. And
what?
It's,
yeah, in reality, Punk lost the belt in like fucking 3 weeks or something. Some fucking
something like that. Yeah, I can't quite remember, but I mean, it was a load of bullshit basically. But
totally, I think just like fucking Triple H screwed him over, then Del Rio cashed in, and then won the belt. But then Punk fucking won the belt back anyway, and then began his record-setting run. So like, why?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I was wondering if I didn't actually see this. I didn't know if the title reign he won at Money in the Bank went into that year-long thing where he had Paul Heyman as manager and all of that.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right. He lost to Del Rio, and then he won it back from somebody.
As far as I remember, he beat Del Rio for it like a month or two later.
Oh, really?
Like, So like Punk was like champion in July, and then by I think maybe September or October he was champion again. So like that's when his 400-day reign began. When it should have fucking happened in July or June, whenever it was July. When was Money in the Bank? July?
June 17th.
June, yeah.
No, sorry, July 17th. No, you're right.
July,
you're right,
yeah. So it should have happened in July, but instead they fucked around for like a month or two with Del Rio, and then just gave the belt back to Punk. Like, what the fuck was that about?
That's it. It makes no sense. So hopefully this storyline did. And yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that. That was.
I had a lot of fun listening to it. I really enjoyed that. I gotta say, and this is not like hyperbole because we're recording the fucking show, but I'm like, as a first episode, that's fucking good.
It will do.
Really
good. Do. We've got a lot more where that came from. That's the thing.
You guys are lucky to listen to this podcast because that was a fucking trip, man. That was great.
Oh, you. Shucks. Next week it's you, mate. You're on next week, and
Listen, man, I don't want to spoil anything, but mine is not going to be that good.
Is it about Viscera?
I'm gonna have to come up. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm gonna have to come up with like a shit ton of twists because mine doesn't have any twists. Again, I don't want to spoil it. You'll find out next week. But now I'm gonna have to up. You need me up my own game. You know that you're a tricky trickster.
Speaking of games,
let's play a game.
Let's play a game. So we've got this thing, just to kind of end off the episode. So at the moment, it's kind of pilot episode name. It's Kayfabe Tombola. That's not a very good name. We're probably going to change that. But here's what we do. So we're going to be doing this at the end of every show for a little bit of a bonus bit. The idea is that the person who isn't hosting the episode has their kayfabe capabilities put to the test. The host will give that person 4 names and 4 situations, randomly numbered 1 to 4 and A to D. Sorry, 4 things A to B. I'm doing a great job explaining this. So the co-host basically has to choose a number and letter combination. So, for example, 4A or 2C or 1D or whatever, and come up with a great storyline for that situation. But here's the catch. They've got to do it in 30 seconds. The timer's going to be running. So it may be hit or miss. Most likely it's going to be miss. But hey, we're not actually pro wrestling bookers, and we're just pretending to be.
Yeah, it's just for fun.
Just for funsies.
Here's the thing. Do you want me to pick like a number and a letter first, and then you give me what the 2 characters are? I give you the scenario, and then afterwards you can tell me what my other choices could have been.
I tell you, I'll give you the names first, and I'll give you the names and the situations first, and then we can kind of figure out what you could have had after that. So,
okay.
So it's your shot this week because I've hosted the episode. So the 4 names I have for you. So in no particular order at all. So I've got different numbers next to their names at the moment. So in no particular order, I've got Viscera.
Of course you have Viscera.
The best in the world. I've got Kane.
Yeah.
I've got Abyss.
Okay.
And I've got Trish Stratus.
Okay, all 4 super heavyweights. All right.
Super heavyweights, yeah, exactly. Monsters.
Monster heels, yeah.
Monster.
Okay.
So for the situations, we have, and again, in no particular order.
Yep.
Situation 1 is the manager of WWE champion Spike Dudley.
Right.
Situation 2 is revealed to be the bastard son or daughter of Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Situation 3 cuts their own pipe bomb promo in WWE, but why? Situation 4 ends the Undertaker's undefeated WrestleMania streak.
Cool. I got one little question I want to just
Go
clarify.
For it.
The one about the manager of Spike Dudley, the champion,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I don't have to explain why Spike Dudley is the champion, do I?
Not at all, no.
Okay, good.
It's
Because I only got 30 seconds, man.
That's a lot. Yeah, it's not a lot of time. But so to those of you who are listening, feel free to play along at home and let us know what storylines you came up with for your choice. But for now, Dylan, give me a number 1 to 4 and a letter A to D.
I'm gonna pick 1 and B.
1B. So you've got Trish Stratus.
Uh-oh.
ends the Undertaker's undefeated WrestleMania streak.
That's the one I wanted. Do you remember that? Whenever we were talking about this, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I picked that? Holy shit, dude.
Legitimately, Trish's 1 and the Undertaker's streak is B. So, I mean, yeah, so, I mean, here we go. The 30 seconds on the clock. Your time starts now.
All right, Trish Stratus says that she's actually the big dog in the yard and Undertaker isn't squat. Because Undertaker says he is. So Trish is like, listen, man, you think you're the big dog. You've never beat me. Undertaker reluctantly has to agree. And then Trish says, because you've never beat me, why don't we put both our undefeated streaks on the line? Technically, I don't know if Trish has lost at WrestleMania. That's irrelevant. So she says, listen, Undertaker, you think you're the big man? Let's see who the big man really is. It's me. I'm the man. Trish did this before Becky Lynch did. So she makes a match at WrestleMania. Oh, shit.
Oh, the quick
30 seconds?
Yeah, maybe we should make it a minute.
Right. Do you want to give me another 30 seconds?
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
You started?
Yep.
Oh shit! All right, so they have their match at WrestleMania. It's like, here we go. Undertaker's like, I ain't sweating this. It's only fucking Trish Stratus. What's she gonna do? So they have this match, right? Trish is like, I gotta fight Undertaker. He's like 7 feet tall. And Undertaker's like, I'll just break your legs. Match right before the match starts. Trish Stratus kicks Undertaker in the dick. They ring the bell. She goes, pins Undertaker. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Because everybody knows Undertaker's weakness is being kicked in the dick. She wins. She breaks Undertaker's streak, and she continues to claim that the Undertaker has never beaten her, which is a true fact.
Time up. That's fucking marvelous.
That was pretty good. I like that.
All perfectly logical as well. I mean, Undertaker's one weakness is the dick.
It's seriously, if you go back and watch like loads of other matches, kick him in the dick.
Yeah,
it's the weakness.
That's it. Do you know? To be honest, like seeing like things like no disqualification matches, matches where there's no rules, like why doesn't someone just go up and
go
just
straight for the dick kick?
Punch the guy in the dick, just
again
and again and again and again. He's gonna submit. Like
the guy's
gonna win the match in seconds.
That's Rey Mysterio's submission move. Just
the
kicks the guy in the dick till he gives up.
It's like constant Rochambeau.
Oh god. That was fun. I like that. That was really good. I think we'll do a minute from now on, maybe.
Yeah,
30 seconds.
30 seconds. I was thinking that when you were talking about it, like 30 seconds is not enough time at all. So it's going to be a minute from now on. So
coincidentally, a minute was just about how long it took Trish Stratus to beat the Undertaker.
After a quick dick kick.
After a kick to the dick, man. And she's got like
oh man, is Trish Stratus' finisher not called the chick kick?
It should be the dick kick. Am I right, fellas?
Right?
But she's got like, she's wearing pointy shoes as well, like real like, you wouldn't think she's gonna rest on those shoes, and she plants it like right in the dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like squarely between the two balls. You know what I'm talking?
Right between, like just right. Like,
splits in half. You know.
And then not Brock Lesnar. It was Trish Stratus who defeated Undertaker at WrestleMania. So there you go. Wow, that was a lot of fun. It should
Quite
be
a trip.
That was a hell of a trip. Should we close the book on episode 1 of Making Kayfabe?
I think so. I think we did a great job. I don't want to toot our own horns, but we fucking killed it.
Yes, for first episode, it's pretty damn good. So
we nailed it.
Yeah. So listen, I've got some plug. We don't really have a whole lot to plug. This is episode 1, but if you're listening to this and you enjoyed the show, please follow us. We're at Making Kayfabe on Twitter. We're trying to build something good here, and we're both fully dedicated to bringing you great content week after week. Trust me, we ain't stopping here. We've got a hell of a lot of stories to go through. The list that me and Dylan are making gets longer and longer and longer. So on that note as well, if you have any ideas you'd like to be featured on the show, or if you have any feedback in itself, you can also email us. It's makingkayfabe@gmail.com. Rate us on iTunes, give us a cheeky 5 stars on there, tell your friends about us, tweet the shit out of us, let us know if you enjoyed the episode, and most importantly, keep it kayfabe, my friends.
Also, tweet at the Undertaker and tell him to be scared of Trish Stratus. He'll know what it means. He'll know what it means.
She's coming for you. Right? She's coming. But yeah, so until then, that's I've been Bryce. This has been Dylan, and we'll see you next time.
See you later, guys. Thanks for listening.
Adios.